You notice that looks like an Xbox symbol on his beret? What's that all about?
What? No, it looks like a military symbol. Achievement Hunter is a very similar thing.
Yeah, because there's this pattern after the Xbox. Yes.
No, it's not. It's not
Achievement Hunter, Adam.
No, it's
Achievement.
Yeah, but it's designed after the fucking. It's not. That's not the Xbox logo. Anyway.
Yes, it is.
No, it's not.
Achievement Hunter.
The Xbox logo.
I don't know. I'm just kidding around. I don't know.
He's looking it up.
I'm not sure.
Where's this website thing?
We had the Ring of Light.
Nope, that's not the Xbox logo.
Sure it is.
I don't know. I'm not sure.
Welcome to the podcast.
That's the Xbox logo. That's what it looks like.
Yeah.
You're thinking of the achievement logo, which
Damn
I
it,
can't
Adam.
spell.
Oh.
Damn it. Yeah, and it looks like the front of an Xbox 360 when Achievements first came out.
Well, Achievement Hunter.
They took it from Xbox branding at the time.
Branding? I don't know.
Yes!
It's just four lights on the front of it.
Whenever you get an achievement, it shows you the icon at the bottom of the screen.
Alright.
And also remember when you
Tells you what color you are,
remember
player
the Red
you are.
Ring of Death?
Yeah.
Look up Red Ring of Death.
We're live streaming the patch right now, apparently.
Cool.
Alright.
Welcome to the patch, everybody.
Welcome to the patch.
It says Dude Soup on it.
Welcome to the patch.
What website are you looking at? I know you've been
What
gone
are
a
we
while.
playing?
but-
What's going on?
This is Trimbo the Elephant or whatever.
Welcome to an argumentative bowl of dude soup.
Hello.
I'm not gonna argue.
It's a bowl of dude soup that doesn't acknowledge the fact that that symbol is totally from achievements on the Xbox 360.
Stop it.
I'm with Lawrence. I think it is. It looks exactly like the Red Ring
I
of
don't
Death.
care. You know what? How about this? I don't give a shit.
Oh well.
Well, there you go.
There it goes.
This episode is
Told you, Joel's look. There she goes.
Joel's old-timey computer.
I know. Oh, there she is.
Joel, when it gets to the end, Joel, when it gets to the end, you have to push it back so you can start typing again.
the auto return is broken.
This looks fun.
This episode is sponsored by Loot Crate. For less than $20 a month, you can get 6 to 8 items of gamer and pop culture licensed gear, apparel, collectibles, unique one-of-a-kind items, and more. Make sure to head to lootcrate.com/dudesoup and enter code DUDESOUP, that's all one word, to save $3 on any new subscription. You'll hear more from them later. But first, we have a touching letter to share.
Oh, we do?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, that's right. We're going to read the letter. Forgot about that.
This is very serious.
Keep a straight face. Come on.
Yeah.
You got to read it. It's really important.
Commit.
All right, so
Tell them who it came from, the email address.
yeah, it came from 105C8R plus 2ENGMG8FTY.
Okay. At what?
At gorillamail.com.
Gorilla Mail, okay.
Just in case you're wondering, Gorilla Mail is a service in which you can instantly generate a disposable email to send to somebody, which is important because this is a very important email and a very serious email, and
Yeah.
I wouldn't want anyone to think it's anything but.
Okay.
So this is in relation to a certain news story we did on the know about a particular game that a lot of people are looking forward to.
Yeah, you're talking about Silent Hills, right?
Yes, about Silent Hills.
Okay.
First of all, this is the email. First of all, I could not find Mr. Green's email address.
Yes.
This is the only one I stumbled upon. Anyway, this is an anonymous confession about Half-Life 3. After seeing your 2 videos on the know, I thought it'd come out as I probably have very little time left to live. I signed an NDA.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Hey. Serious. I signed an NDA for all of what I saw, but I don't think it has any point now. I am a teenage boy who suffers from an aggressive form of cancer. I won't go into too much detail. Don't let that imply that it's not true. He just doesn't have time, as he says many times.
Just read the story.
A few months ago, I got to visit Valve through Make-A-Wish Foundation. Yeah. But I wanted to keep a low profile. Mostly because I knew I would see some amazing things and I didn't want people to ask me about it.
So he's dying and he went to Valve.
Yes, it's through Make-A-Wish.
Okay.
I talked to Mark Laidlaw, Gabe Newell, and some other big names in the company, and that was my dream as I am a huge Valve fan. They showed me some things such as the gunmetal update for Team Fortress 2, some iterations of Dota 2 Reborn, and they told me they showed me something called Clarity. Excuse me. I had no idea what I was about to see, but after finding out Valve uses some very odd codenames internally, such as Insatiable Raccoon for the Dota 2 Workshop tools and Box Rocket for SFM, I thought Clarity wasn't that much of an odd name, so it must be something people internally could easily remember. They take me to the VR room, they have a VR room, and made me use an early version of the Vive. They booted up, and I'm in some Arctic environment. I was very confused until they told me, don't tell anyone about this.
I like that they made him do it.
I know.
Gabe and grabbed him. Put this on. But then he got confused and he was like, "It's so cold, but I don't feel cold."
All right, sorry, go ahead.
Sorry. It's touching.
It's important.
Yeah, as soon as I looked down at my virtual body, I realized I was playing as Gordon Freeman, and this was a demo of Half-Life 3. I had a blast playing it. I was on top of the Borealis killing some new Combine enemies. Some were females in a white suit. Most people just say women, but females. While others were a mix of flesh and metal called melters. Cool. I got to play some of the single-player experience too. Apparently, he was playing multiplayer before.
Okay.
But only the first 10 minutes for reasons unknown. I was next to Alex, and her helicopter had crashed inside a pile of snow.
She's also a female.
Yes, another female human. There was a big structure in front of us, according to Alex, which was a weather manipulation station used by the Combine. We tried getting around it, but it was too massive, so we walked into a nearby cave. Alex starts talking about how her dad would always bring her into similar caves back in Black Mesa when she was a child. Can't remember much of the dialogue, sorry.
Okay.
Must be the cancer. She stopped and looked at a skull on the ground, and we heard some howling noises shortly after. She told me to run. I was using a VR treadmill prototype during the entire session, by the way. We were greeted by some of the...
mentioned that before?
Also,
No.
wait, hold on a
no.
minute. He said he didn't have very much energy because he has cancer, but he's using the treadmill?
Well, this was Make-A-Wish. This could have been like 5 years ago.
Also, it's like mouse sensitivity. You can turn it up.
Oh, so you don't have
You
to
can
walk
turn
very
it up.
much.
Yeah,
Okay.
so you just take one step, but then you go really far.
They also give you lots of Adderall before you do this.
Yeah. We were greeted by some Combines that surrounded us and knocked the both of us unconscious. That was it, nothing more. I then got to ask Mark and Gabe about anything I wanted, so obviously I asked if I would ever see Half-Life 3 as I am a terminally ill patient. Gabe held my hand and
You
said,
phrased it.
Wait. Go back to the last part.
okay, I'll reread that. I then got to ask Mark and Gabe anything I wanted, so I obviously asked if I would ever see Half-Life 3 as I am a terminally ill patient. Gabe held my hand and just said, I don't think so. He was trying not to weep, but I did.
Favorite part.
Oh man.
That's my favorite part of the email. Just go ahead.
He said, we are probably able to show something more next E3, but not earlier.
Oh, E3.
Yeah.
Interesting.
I'm really sorry about
big on
this. Although you might enjoy what we have in store. I couldn't believe my own eyes. Left 4 Dead 3 was being booted up right behind me. We started playing it for a good hour with 2 other employees, which apparently don't have names.
Just men.
Yeah. Mark and Gabe too? Whatever.
Sure, whatever.
Names that weren't Googleable.
He started telling me about how Left 4 Dead 3 was their next big thing. It's their new IP. No, new IP.
It's the cancer. It's the cancer talking.
that will run on the Source 2 engine. Nice.
Right, yeah.
He said they'd make an effort to ship Left 4 Dead 3 as soon as possible. I asked when exactly, and he said, when the Vive comes out, I will personally come to your hospital, and we can play it in VR for as much as you want. But I'm sure this will never happen. I've been feeling too ill lately.
Sorry, cancer.
Anyway, back to Half-Life 3. I asked them why it took them so long, and Mark only answered with, we went through many iterations, none of which were perfect, but we finally found something that looks to be promising in the long run. It will blow people away. I can totally agree on that. The graphics in the demo looked amazing. If CryEngine and Source had a baby and removed all geometry limitations, this would be it.
Okay, cool.
I cannot remember much of the tour. My memories are really vague. Like I said, I've been feeling very ill lately, and I can barely find the energy to type this email.
Does he have cancer? I forget.
Yes,
Oh,
terminally
okay,
ill
gotcha.
with cancer.
Terminally ill.
He's coughing in his little bed with his little hand draped on the laptop keyboard.
Yeah.
Cancer.
One button at a time.
Yeah.
Feel free to use any of this piece of info in your videos. Believe me or don't, it's your choice.
All right, will do.
Rest assured that Half-Life 3 is much of a thing, and when you see it yourself, it's impossible to believe it will not come out. Take care and keep the hype up.
But wait, hold on. Gabe said in the email it's not coming out.
It is, though.
But this kid will be dead by
Yeah, he's
then.
gonna die.
Next E3, though.
Gabe got the medical records and
Yeah.
said, ooh, looks like you don't have much time left.
Checked at the file.
So did he say when he went on this tour?
No. Make-A-Wish Foundation, let me check here. Let's see.
Is there a date?
da- da- da-
Do you have a
da-
date on that one?
A few
Reply to his
months.
fake
We'd
email.
like to verify our sources.
He said a few months ago.
2 months ago.
Sure.
2 months ago.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
so he's probably still fighting for it.
Oh, yeah, no, he's still
I'm sure.
around.
Man.
Well,
So there you go. All of the stuff that we
Thank you so
reported.
much.
no, with that,
Nameless hero, you are a hero for making a dummy email account and sending us that very true story.
I don't use the word hero often.
do you think that when someone's
hero,
typing
hero.
that, just thinking about comedy,
Yeah.
when someone's typing that, are they laughing? Because I would be like, we were working on a script yesterday and we were laughing, writing it right as we're writing things in.
I think
Or
he was
do you
laughing.
think they're determined? Because they're like, man, when they read this,
I'm gonna
they're
show
gonna
them.
They're gonna look so stupid. They're gonna look so dumb.
All right. So here's the problem. Here's the problem with our attitudes toward this email and everybody else on the internet.
No, this
right
was
now.
great, man. I mean, I'm very sorry for your loss.
We have been told.
dead yet.
We have been told that we are condescending.
We are.
That we are assholes.
Just to cancer
are.
patients.
That we're cocky and that we basically we got our story shot down, and instead of admitting that we were wrong, we decided that we were going to be
Assholes.
mean to the internet. No. That's what I've been told
We were mean?
by a lot of comments. A lot of comments said we were condescending.
There's a lot of times when I am mean on purpose, and I don't feel like I ever intentionally was mean during this their whole like process. And and honestly, that's because I was honestly impressed with most of the way the internet received our reporting. Like when the first story came out, a lot of people, and I'm saying a lot because typically it's not a lot, were like, you know what, that makes sense. That's a bummer. I'm disappointed, but this story makes sense to me, and thank you for reporting on it. I was like, wow, shit, it actually works.
Yeah.
And you know, there were some people who were just like super mad, but I would expect that too. So,
Well,
I
yeah.
don't know.
But I've seen recently that our follow-up to Half-Life 3 was very condescending.
Oh, really?
Because we said that they were balls deep in denial.
Oh, I don't know, man. When you make a video that says Half-Life 3 is going to come out, and your reasoning is because we all know it's going to, that sounds like denial to me.
So
That is me.
I thought a lot about this last night because I don't want to be condescending. I don't like being condescending. It's actually a trigger for me. This is actually a real thing. I don't like being told that I'm condescending, and I do my best to try and not be. So I'll do my best to try and not be and tell you this.
Yeah, just not being condescending.
All right, I'll do my best.
I'll do my best.
I'm sorry. I'll do my best.
Jeez.
I've never seen Bruce be this genuine before.
Yeah, I'm really actually trying to be genuine here because I got a lot of those comments. So I'll tell you straight out. If you don't want to believe what we reported, you don't have to.
Oh, hell no.
That's it. It's kind of the bottom line because you have to trust that we did our research on the sources, on the story, on the data. You got to trust that we did it. And if you can't trust it, if you don't believe us and you believe that Mark Laidlaw came out and said some relatively general things,
held that kid's hand or whatever.
He didn't give us any specific info.
That was Gabe Newell.
Oh, sorry.
That was Gabe Newell. No, but he talked
get
about
my-
Mark Laidlaw.
Yeah, no, Mark Laidlaw was there, but Gabe Newell was the one who held his hand and stared
that's
into
right.
his eyes,
and wept.
tears welling up, saying, "I'm
Guys,
sorry, but you will not
condescending,
survive."
condescending.
So I'm trying.
How's this condescending?
So
This is
again,
a story.
If you don't want to believe us, that's okay. That's all right. You don't have to. That is your prerogative.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I don't, like we said in the video, I don't like doing these sorts of stories because it's like, I think they're neat, I think they're cool,
Yeah,
but
they're fun.
but I dread them because it's like, well, we have to use the term anonymous source because we know who the source is.
Right.
We've had contact. We have verified the source.
Yes.
This isn't a kid sending an email from his Gator account or whatever the fuck, and saying, "I've got cancer. I've played Half-Life. Do a story on it." We're like, "Whoa, we got to do this. Verify the source." Like,
What
no.
a scoop!
No, like we're not that stupid. I wish we were sometimes, but we actually did the work. We covered the story, and we did it the best we could. But because it is a source that we're not allowed to reveal, because someone's job could be in jeopardy, or multiple jobs, we have to report it as anonymous. That's not to say we know who the source is. We can't tell you who it is, so we say anonymous. I think that gets a little misconstrued, and people go,
Yeah.
Right.
they think we got an email from someone that says anonymous@anonymous.com.
Right. No.
Half-Life 3 and happening, bros. And we're like, whoa!
Whoa!
Not it at all.
So I guess we should say a source that is unnamed.
Yeah.
yeah, that's probably
A
the
source
best.
who would prefer to remain anonymous.
Yeah.
That's the best way of saying it. And I got into it on a Reddit thread. You can read the whole thing if you want, because it's public.
Saddest phrase ever.
I got into it on Reddit.
I
Really
know.
dusted up on the Reddit thread.
Yeah,
right?
but it was one guy being like, well, I'm having a hard time believing. Like, I don't care if you believe me. Like, we gain nothing from this.
It's weird because the assumption is there's a lot of people, and this is something that I discovered. It's going to take a while to get there, but I promise I'm going to make it quick. Okay. So there's a tendency, and a lot of people have complained on the internet about this that
there's that condescending tone again.
Yeah, I or other. Yeah, well, that's exactly what I'm going to get to. That I or other people tend to refer to everyone on the internet as a single person, and I finally understood why it is. It's because that's how the conversation is framed. Like, you will read anyone on the internet and they say you. They're talking to you as an individual, and you want to write back saying, well, stop being a dick, you. So it's given that all we hear is people talking to us singularly, it's tempting to want to frame it as a one-on-one thing, and it's totally not. And I don't know, I just came to that realization that that's why I kind of defaulted into that. I'm going to try to not do that in the future.
Yeah, just name names now.
Yeah, exactly. Call out specific people. Well, I can't even. They're like all behind usernames, which is the other aspect to it. Like, we put our names on it, we put our reputations on it, and then somebody will register a dummy email or Reddit account to call us out, and we're like, this situation isn't exactly fair.
Yeah.
You know, I put my... Woo, I had the courage to put my name and my reputation on it, and then you're telling me that I'm a lying shithead from like an anonymous user account? That doesn't really add up.
You're a hero.
Yeah, I know. Thank you, Adam. I've been waiting for somebody to say it.
I love it.
But
What happened to our long cord?
I guess
it doesn't work. It doesn't work. Yeah, I tried plugging in the controller.
Neat.
I think
If you want.
That'd be great.
I think honestly a lot of people reacted very maturely to this story, and the fact that it was a very nuanced story.
Yeah.
It wasn't as simple like Joe Badman said, I hate Half-Life and I'm not going to make it come out. It was more like here's a complex set of business realities that are happening, and I think we did a good job laying it out, just because most people
Stop
responded.
patting yourself on the back.
I'm just saying because of the response to it. I was very impressed by that. Like a lot of people responded to it very well.
Sorry.
Yeah.
There were some people who didn't, but they're just there for the combat. They want to be right. They don't necessarily want the truth.
Sure, I guess, but at the end of the day, like what makes me kind of sad is you can sit there and go, okay, well I'm gonna believe Half-Life 3 will come out. I'm gonna sit here keep waiting for Half-Life 3 to come out, and it's not coming out. But I'll believe, and that
That's the weird thing.
I gave up on that probably when was episode 3? I guess would have made sense for it to come out sometime in 2008, 2009.
Yeah.
And then it became a meme and a joke, and then
Like 2011 would have been late. 2015 is just absurd.
yeah, now it's like, well, okay, shit. And then
That's the thing. Like, you would think time would be on our side of events, and yet there are people like, no, Half-Life 3 is still in dev, it's still coming. And we're just like, listen, everything you have in the world around you tells you that our version should be the more logical one. And you're
fuck
just
logic.
saying no, just no, because no.
Valve News Network or whatever the fuck, yeah, whose entire business is based around sucking Valve's dick, is a thing.
Not biased reporting.
condescending.
Welcome back.
Sorry, God damn
Try
it.
not to be condescending.
I'm sorry.
No, I get it though. I mean, when Half-Life 2 came out, I stayed up until 2 a.m. because that's when it unlocked in my time zone. I worked at a GameStop at the time, and my manager was cool enough to let me check the game out early, so I could take it home and install it. And then I had to wait for the decrypt key to come through Steam. And I stayed up until 5 a.m. playing it, and I skipped class the next day. Like, I'm a Half-Lifer.
For lifer, that's a cool.
Boom.
The saddest thing I've ever heard.
I know. It's sad. It's sad being a Half-Life fan these days. And
Feels like it.
it's just weird because, going back to the original point, there's this context that people that call out your story have, which is they assume that you were super invested in being right. Meanwhile, you're just like, I know I'm right. I don't need to prove it to you.
Well, the other part being, I wish we weren't right.
Yeah, that's
Honestly.
I mean, I did too, yeah.
I was hoping that the story would be, guys, Half-Life 3 is being developed, and they're planning for a VR release in 2016, and then a regular release in 2017. Here's some screenshots.
Yeah.
I wish that was a thing. Honestly.
Man, that would be cool.
I don't want, and it's that sort of, this term has existed since I don't know how long, but don't kill the messenger. But we're the messenger, and we're, the idea is fuck those guys, and they're like, no, this is just the news. I'm sorry.
Well, we also have to be pretty honest in the fact that I like reporting these sorts of stories.
I really do too.
It's funny because a lot of people were going after my email with Mark and being like, you said you didn't like doing this stuff, and no, that's not true. I said the audience felt like it was owed to them, and I don't think that it's owed to me personally.
What's owed to you? Half-Life?
No, just
Information.
Information in general. I don't think that it's owed to me, but everyone kept saying, well, no, you feel that way, and I was like, no, I don't feel that way.
condescending tone?
I think the audience feels that way. And that's the difference is that that's one of the reasons we report on this stuff is because we feel like
Elephant down.
we feel like the audience
Playing Tembo the Badass Elephant, by the way.
here,
yeah.
treat seats.
It's pretty good.
Man, that elephant is not looking good. Those bloodshot eyes. Ooh, got that peanut butter in there.
We feel like the audience has sort of the way they come off to us feels like it's owed to them, and we don't feel that way sometimes, personally.
Part of the audience, a loud vocal part of
Yes.
the audience.
Yeah, it's a loud vocal part of the audience. Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
I think that was also the case with like Mass Effect 3, which again like comes up specifically in the story, but I think is also applicable for a number of reasons. Is that when it came out, there was this notion that BioWare had betrayed everyone that had bought their games and had valiantly offered up their time to play and have fun with the Mass Effect series. Like, how could you do this to us, your most loyal fans, who and I get that to a degree, but it's, I don't know, I still don't get the outrage. The only thing I could actually like theorize was that Mass Effect 3 as a whole wasn't so good, and people didn't realize that until the credits rolled, and they were like, wait, that was not good. And then they got really mad at the ending because it was the most recent thing they remembered. I don't know, but
Prometheans or Protheans or something.
Yeah.
I would let's take a minute and talk about games reporting just in general.
all right.
Because
I love when James
if
does
we
this.
can enlighten people on our process,
Yeah.
I don't think it'll really help that much. But
We have a whiteboard and we make things up.
For me personally,
Screenshots.
I'm not really a part of that process.
Yeah.
It's mostly the three of you working on that. Lawrence writing scripts, you guys gathering information and doing all kinds of stuff like that. Lawrence putting the information together and compiling it, and then you guys presenting it, right? I basically just film the thing.
Yeah.
But obviously, I see the work you guys put into it. I know when we got a lead on that story.
Yeah.
And I know how long you waited to actually do a story about it because you wanted to verify things and you wanted to turn it into information as opposed to, hey, here's this thing we might have heard, you know? Yeah. But the thing that's interesting to me, and listen, I'm glad that we don't hear about Gamergate anymore. I'm really glad we don't hear about Gamergate.
You're just not listening to the right places.
I guess so. But
Kotaku in action.
at least it doesn't get into my everyday life anymore. But I just think about like the whole ethics in games journalism thing being so funny at the time, being so funny, and it's this utterly commercial industry. Like,
Oh yeah.
there's a reason why Nintendo Power existed. All like games media began as this
Sales
whatever,
vehicle.
like just a bunch of ways for corporate entities to share their message in like a cool new way, kind of,
Yeah.
right? And I still stand by
Johnny
that.
Arcade.
I don't think that games journalism is actually a thing, but I would say that you guys are making an effort to be games journalists.
Well, it's-
Well, yes and no. I was thinking about this today. My issue with that, and I saw the 4chan thread where like these fuckers call them,
they don't call themselves journalists, but then they do journalism.
yeah, they do journalism. They go lol lol lol. See, we weren't journalists, so we're not being held to these
I'm not a
standards.
carpenter, but I've hung paintings.
Well,
Yeah.
no, I mean the reason why we don't call ourselves game journalists is because we've seen the people who do call themselves
yeah,
game
it
journalists.
opens you up to a lot of
yeah,
And
criticism.
I don't want to be that.
But here's the thing. You guys are doing, I think, actual journalism. I think it's fair to say that games journalism doesn't exist by nature of the medium.
Yeah, sure.
Right?
Sure.
And by nature of the people who ingest it. Right?
Okay.
And this is also kind of tied to the whole games as art, games as a serious medium. Why do people treat it like toys? Why do people just treat it like a hobby? Why aren't they taking it more seriously? Like put in museums and things like that.
'Cause I'm playing as an elephant and
That's kind of
murdering
happening in
people.
general, but it's also dependent on
Badass
how
elephant.
the audience reacts to things like this. Because what you guys basically did was investigative reporting.
Yeah.
You have a source, you followed that source, you verified the source, and then you even turned the story into something more than what was given to you by the source, right? It became something bigger than that, something that attempted to be informative that you could use verified facts to support.
Yeah.
That's investigative journalism, right?
is.
Investigative reporting, investigative
Sure.
whether or not you guys consider yourselves journalists.
No, you're right. It is.
By the way, right now, there's somebody who's like, ugh, they just did this podcast so they could suck their own dicks and tell us they were right for an hour.
No, this isn't about.
And
The whole point is there's no right or wrong. God damn it! It's games. My
Yeah.
whole thing is it's like people are looking for a right answer and a wrong answer, and it's like the answers are always much more complex
Yeah.
than that.
Well,
But do you want someone? Do you and look at almost any other outlet? Right now, this is me sucking your guys' dicks.
Yeah.
Do you want any other outlet to just get the press release in the email, right? That says, new Tomb Raider coming to PlayStation 4, right? Like, they wait until the press release comes out. Polygon wait until the press release comes out. Wait until their PR agent or whatever sends them the email and says, all right, go ahead. Or do you want someone to get some insider information, share that information ahead of time, kind of shake things up and maybe affect the industry or give you some information that not everyone is just going to regurgitate and spew out again 100 times in 100 different ways. Like, I mean, what do you want? I think this is a really good time for fans of the industry to decide what they want the media of that industry to be.
Press releases.
Yeah, because right now, most people, according to what we've been told, want press releases. Because like a lot of the comments, a lot of the vocal, if they're a vocal minority, a lot of the vocal minorities say, you know, like, stop doing journalism, basically. They're just like, because we don't want to hear it.
I think they actually really are the minority.
I hope. I mean, I hope they are, but it's one of those things that
like Mexicans.
I thought about running the data on it actually, like looking up the view to comment to negative comment ratio.
Yeah, that's good.
It would have taken a while to comb through all the comments and categorize them as positive, negative, or neutral.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, this is what people do for jobs, by the way. Like social media people do this all the time. I didn't quite have the time to do that, but I'm confident that if you did run that kind of data, you'd see that like, okay, we got what, 500,000 views on that video?
On the first video, yeah.
Maybe 100th of those left a comment, and I would say this is loose guess, out of the 1% that left comments, maybe like 0.02% were very flagrantly negative. Mm-hmm. So I think I mean, we always say that the viewer we want is the one who watches our content, goes like, that was cool. I either learned something, got entertained, I got my time's worth.
Or did both.
And I'm gonna go do something else.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go be a balanced individual. I'm gonna go like spend time with my kids. I'm gonna go to my job. I'm gonna go pick up a hobby. I'm gonna learn how to cross stitch, whatever. Like,
it's cool.
It's, I think what we're seeing is
Fucker.
I don't wanna say it, I'm trying to figure out how to say this. Like, the more you engage with the super engaged, the less return you get.
Oh yeah. No, you're right. You're absolutely.
Oh, it's diminishing returns. I was telling Bruce that like how he spent his weekend like just fighting people and defending himself. I was like, you can use that energy in a video,
There's
and
some people who
you'll
just wanna
reach
fight.
many more people, and you'll probably make your point way more clear. Because I do that too. I get in the trenches, and I'm like, I gotta stop doing that. Like,
Well,
I think it's important to do it.
I mean, there's a balance.
Yeah, there's a
honestly.
balance. Yeah, there's a balance.
But like, I was just thinking this, like how people on our subreddit pointed out, they're like, here's this 4chan thread about these guys. I'm like, man, I kind of miss when we weren't on 4chan.
Yeah.
We were on 4chan a while ago. I saw
Kind
it.
of, but it's like, it's funny because
it's just creepy to like, because they always think you don't see it.
Yeah,
they always
well-
think they have this private little clubhouse. And you're
Well,
like, no, it's public internet.
no,
We can
we're-
find this
we're
stuff.
on there.
Except that I saw that I only saw that
yeah.
thread because someone linked to it, and there was like, just so you know, they are confirmed lurkers.
Yeah.
And I was like,
Not lurkers. He thought
I was
that.
like,
I have
if
an
someone on our
internet connection.
subreddit links to 4chan, otherwise I guarantee you I am not fucking going to 4chan
No, yeah, like
for any
I'm
reason.
not on 4chan hardly at all. I know Lawrence is.
Yeah.
And everyone kept
lives
saying
there.
like, Lawrence, are you there? It was
They
really-
a lot of them think it's also like it's part of that whole like they can't see us, but also we're the center of the internet type thing.
Sure.
They think that they're like shell accounts that if anyone talks about anything positively, it's just like somebody at that company who has an anon account posting.
AstroTurfer.
Basically, yeah.
Yeah.
And they think that we were doing that.
But
Or some
it
people were
is-
saying that.
the-
But I also think it's at the point of a meme. Like you say that no matter what all the time. You're out of water.
Well, I know. Oh fuck, I'm dead. The whole time I was thinking, I was like, well, these are all people with like very like engaged opinions about us, but they're engaged and they're watching our stuff, and I'm
that's
like,
good.
well, I don't know.
think
It's like
so.
I kind of miss when people were just passive about me and just didn't give a shit.
Well, there are still people that do that. There are hundreds of thousands of them.
That's what I'm saying.
Good.
Like
You know?
I prefer that. It's like, oh man.
the video had 500,000 views. That 4chan thread had 150 posts.
Yeah.
With maybe a lot of duplicates. Yeah.
Oh man.
I don't know.
I don't know. It's sort of I mean, I'm not going to name names, but we all know who I'm talking about. But like the people who are like, well,
Joel.
it's Joel. It's the people who are like, you hate fuck, where you're like,
Oh.
yeah, you're like, I fucking hate these guys, but I watch everything they do, and it's like, what? Why?
Yeah.
Just
Don't watch.
don't watch, please.
Well, I hate.
Well, Joel works here. He has to watch.
This is like more
Nobody complains all the time.
potential dick sucking, but it's
More dick sucking?
yeah.
Condescending.
I don't want to do this.
We're condescending.
Wait, hold on.
dick suckers.
I'm gonna also. I want to acknowledge the condescending thing because we are condescending.
Oh, yeah.
But I think I think in some ways, one we're condescending because we're older.
Yeah.
We're probably older than our average viewer and maybe
Yeah.
the like average person on the internet that is locally a part of like games media. So we're condescending because we've seen more of the world likely, and we've
See more of the games industry, almost for sure.
Oh, we've definitely seen
than
more of the
anybody
games
else.
industry.
I've been to France.
So when someone says something, we have to roll our eyes a little bit because we've seen what happens behind the scenes and things like that, and how things are treated and how seriously some of these comments are taken and things like that. So we are condescending, and I think that's maybe that's not an excuse. We shouldn't just be allowed to be condescending, but that's why. So hopefully that helps you understand there. The other part is I think we're trying to speak the voice of the people that we are talking to, right? Like, I think
True,
we're
yeah.
trying
Every
to.
gamer is condescending. That's a very good point.
We're trying. Oh, more so, we're just trying to speak the internet. You know, like we're trying to speak the lingo.
Yeah.
So like to have a cool, fun, like more like condescending, cool take on the news is better than maybe our hand on our hip. And like because that's kind of condescending too. It sounds like they're really interested
I feel like
in
that's
you.
pandering.
Yeah,
but
a
like,
little bit.
I don't know.
Flip service.
We'd rather be condescending than pandering.
Well, I mean, like I said, I desperately, in my personal life, try and not be condescending because I've been told, like, oh, you're condescending. And I'm like,
Shut up, Mom.
I guess the problem is,
I get that too.
The problem is that
Surprise.
I'm confident in what I'm saying. So is that the problem? Because like we are very confident in what we reported on. Like this
Otherwise
is
we
not
wouldn't
something
have reported
that
on it.
like and also I mean I second guess a lot of the things I do just in my daily life, and I can't. Number one, I can't second guess the stuff that we report because once we report it, it's gone. It's on the internet forever. So I thought a lot about this before we put this story out, and Lawrence did too. I know we like really we talked about it and we were like, should we do this? Should we not do this? It's like this wasn't something that was like, oh, Half-Life 3, we got to put it on the internet right now. It wasn't like that at all. It was like we thought about it and made sure that this was something that, and we knew we were going to get a lot of flack.
Yeah.
We knew we were going to take a lot of shit. And that's what Adam's comment was very important, which was the fact that we have everything to lose and nothing to gain. Because 500,000 views is nothing. It's nothing.
Yeah, we're not. Also, we don't make any money on that.
And we don't make money on views.
So
That's
it's
another
like-
important point.
Yeah, that's sort of the thing that I like is like you get paid the same no matter how good the story is or not. Like, I mean, we might get a pat on the back and be like, "Hey, you guys did some good views."
We haven't gotten that, by
good
the way.
numbers there.
We've
I don't know.
We haven't gotten a pat on the back.
Some of our viewers were complimentary and.
Oh no, I meant from like our superiors.
No, yeah, from like our boss.
Oh, sure,
Yeah.
sure, yeah.
I'm just saying like, but we don't expect that either. It's sort of like. Going back to that one kid who asked, I assume he's a kid. He might be, a functioning adult.
Condescending.
No, that's my voice.
No, yeah,
I just sound sarcastic.
I'm just saying. Yeah, but that's Adam. Bad move.
Hit the wrong button. But the guy who's like, he wrote, he's like, why you do this? Like, why you report this? People get mad at you. Why do you do this? And I was like, just for 2 seconds, put yourself in our shoes. Not that like we're suffering or anything like that, but like someone comes up to you and you can vouch for the source and they tell you, here's this story's gonna blow your fucking mind. And you're like, okay, I trust this person. I did some legwork and I found out that this story checks out. I'm just gonna sleep on it. And it's like, no, like shit, like people deserve to hear this.
Well,
Like,
I don't know.
it's an interesting story.
I think that as much as it creates a headache for the people at Valve or the people in any leak situation, and I do appreciate that this actively causes headaches for people. It either destroys their work in terms of like fucking up PR schedules, or forces a nice dude like Mark Laidlaw to spend his entire weekend answering emails from angry people.
Yeah.
I did feel bad about that actually.
Yeah.
I didn't feel bad at all because I was doing exactly the same thing.
Yeah, sure, and
So-
I am too to a degree, but I always feel like there are jobs based around the release of information and the timing of it, and if we mess with that, we're obviously messing with somebody's bread and butter, and I feel an amount of empathy about that. But ultimately, how it occurs to me is communication between games makers and games players is at an all-time low, and I don't want to sound alarmist with that, but just in my, I would say it was probably less before the internet existed. Like in the late 80s, there wasn't a whole lot of communication there. There was like some enthusiast magazines, mostly in the UK, that would actually publish interviews with game devs. And that was it. Like you got to see the wholly clean, sanitized, like Nintendo promotional VHS tape that had an interview with some dude with like some shitty like Nirvana knockoff wailing over it. And that was your exposure to game dev. And what I see from a lot of people is they're just curious about how games are made, what the process is. And in the wake of any actual information, they end up making up a lot of it in their own head. And when you're like 12, your vision of how the world works doesn't quite make sense, but you roll with these assumptions.
Just called all of our viewers 12.
No, I was 12.
He's saying when he was.
Oh,
Yeah.
good. Okay, all right. I was worried.
So I had this weird magical concept of what game development was and how it operated. I
Also,
remember
just the way game magazines were written is like,
Yeah.
these dudes are living the high life, when in fact they were making
No.
probably minimum wage and like working in cramped offices and
So I think
smell bad.
Yeah, I think that there is real value in increasing the information and also hopefully the empathy between games players and makers, because there's not a whole lot of empathy right now. Right now it's like Arkham Knight comes out and doesn't run on a certain platform, they're like, fuck you! Take this game off the internet, you piece of shit! And if there were any empathy there, if when they were typing that they could feel the pain of all the QA people who it's like a staff of 10 and they're like, this game is broken! It's broken! What are we gonna do?
But no, they
Maybe
kind
just
of
temper the tone a little bit.
like everyone gets kind of grouped in. I saw this. There was a story on the R Games subreddit where they're talking about Evolve, and they're like fucking greedy developers, and it's like
What?
well, because they're like
All the maps are free.
I don't know,
Oh,
man.
the DLC. The DLC.
Well, because it was like a DLC vehicle, and
Yeah,
they're
that was
like
a big deal for them.
and there was sort of this
For
weird
gamers.
Well, there was this weird attitude.
They were
of,
trying to turn into a platform, just like what Valve did.
I don't know, but well, it's funny too because
But Valve's cool.
These are the guys who made Left 4 Dead originally.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Turtle Rock. Those guys
Turtle-
are awesome.
Well, regardless, I'm just saying like it's a big studio. There's a lot of
was
guys, and like we've been a part of that. Where like we've been at companies where the company's doing really stupid stuff, and we're like, please stop.
Yeah.
Like, please stop. And like the individuals are cool, but the people at the head who are making all the calls are doing really dumb things. There's nothing you can do, and people are like, fuck that company. You're like, no, I'm with you.
I know.
I also don't agree with these things, but and they're like, no, fuck you. I hope you don't get a job anymore. You're like, really?
Yeah.
That sucks.
I've never known a game dev, somebody who spends 12 hours a day making games, to want to do anything but make a fun game for people to play.
Yeah.
And then, I don't know, just the lack of empathy, the lack of understanding that human beings make this stuff. And I think part of that is the lack of communication. Like, all you hear are these sanitized press releases. You know, Phil Spencer, very cool dude, but the most the average person ever gets to see him is when he's doing a presentation on stage.
You should do a
thoroughly
fan
rehearsed.
meetup. That'll go over well.
Yeah, should do a family meetup. Might get assassinated.
Yeah, with Phil Spencer. All right, guys, Phil Spencer is going to be on deck this Thursday.
Are you
Show up to the West Side Dave and Buster's.
with your sniper rifles?
Ooh,
No, it's just a video
do
game.
you have an ad read?
we do actually.
Oh, darn it.
Yeah.
No, that's good. That's a good thing. That's
Yeah.
why I stopped you.
A natural break.
Yeah.
If you want to publicize your public meetup with Phil Spencer, may I suggest a good idea is to host it with Squarespace.
Oh.
Squarespace is a set of tools, basically, and also web hosting and everything like that. Basically, it's a one-stop shop for your online presence. Your ability to make a good-looking web page that does that cool little thing where you scroll and there's a bigger picture in the background that
I love
scrolls
that.
less.
I love that.
Parallax scrolling, Web 3.0. Squarespace has got you covered. We've tinkered around with it, at least I have. Let me tell you, it's a fuckload easier to make a website with Squarespace than it is to code HTML and Notepad, which I did in like 1998 when I first got internet, and one of the dudes in my Jedi Knight 2 clan gave me free hosting.
I'm gonna punch you in the nose.
I used that website to host my amusing observances about the world around me.
Aren't you doing an ad read?
I wanted to be Dave Barry.
You're upsetting Squarespace.
Sorry, Squarespace. Squarespace is trusted by millions of people and some of the most respected brands in the world. So they say it starts at $8 a month, and you get a free domain if you sign up for an entire year. I already have big booty lovers, so don't try to get that one. And in addition to starting your career as a columnist, if you're in high school or college, all right, we say this a lot, and I'm going to say it again. Every time somebody asks, like, how do I get into your line of work? The answer is do it, but also be able to show it. So a YouTube channel's fine, but if you want to man, they are going to town on that elephant. If you want to really make yourself stand out, you can have a nice, cool, custom-looking portfolio website showing either like your character models, your editing work, your compositions, your concept art, whatever you want to do.
Pictures of Phil Spencer.
Yeah, pictures of Phil Spencer. I'm saying, like, I've been to a lot of career fairs, career expos and stuff, at Game Developers Conference or whatever, and to a point, every single person, when you ask them for jobs or you're trying out, they want to see something right then. Like, pull it up on your phone, show it to them.
They do.
If you can capture their attention, then you've got an in, and that's how you get an in. It's a lot easier than it used to be. So yeah, Squarespace is a good candidate for that. Start your free trial today with no credit card required at squarespace.com. When you decide to sign up for Squarespace, make sure to sign up at squarespace.com/dudesoup to get 10% off your first purchase. Once more, that's squarespace.com/dudesoup, DUDESOUP, all one word. It has to be, it's a URL. And then 10% off your first purchase. Thank you for your sponsorship, Squarespace. We look forward to all the lovely websites that you guys will make
Phil Spencer.
about Phil Spencer.
Hey, Joel.
He's in Hungary.
Yeah, Joel needs to make a travel log.
So here's,
So I'm watching the podcast,
No, yeah.
and it's like a solid 45 seconds behind where you are right now. So I
thought
don't
he
know
was-
what you're talking about anymore.
so here's what I want from Joel, because Joel's gone, and I'm curious to see what your take is on this whole thing. The
Oh, yeah.
Half-Life 3 thing.
Joel, get over here.
Because I know you're our friend, but
Oh, he's
at
gone
the same
again.
You
time,
were
Joel's
absent the whole time.
Joel's relatively objective, so
Oh.
he can tell us if we sounded condescending or sounded like assholes or we're doing something wrong or what.
Well, what we didn't explain
Maybe Joel
correctly-
isn't the best barometer for sounding like an asshole.
How dare you say that I can't divorce
What did
the hoi ploy from myself?
Is that a
See
word?
what I mean?
what did 4chan call him? Broadway guy?
Broadway. Yeah, where's the gay guy that dances? That was really funny.
All right, so
have fun.
I wasn't able to watch the videos until today, but I was
Whoa!
but I had seen all of the emails that Mark and you had
Oh, yeah,
gone
yeah.
back and
Had
forth
exchange.
on.
You read them all?
I read them all.
Good.
I read the majority of 4 or 5 different incredibly long Reddit threads and the 4chan thread. And I think
It's the first time I've ever heard Joel say 4chan.
4chan.
Oh, don't say it like that.
His favorite,
Say, hey, Joel, say trip fact.
His favorite post 70s nouveau artist.
4chan. 4chan.
4chan.
And I think y'all handled it. I mean, I sent an email on Friday. I think y'all handled it really well. I think that
That means a lot, Joel.
you're welcome.
From the show.
Yeah, you're condescending.
I think I agree with. I think Lawrence, you originally said that the audience was generally more positive this time. I
think so.
But I also think that there's a fundamental misunderstanding on the audience's part about
Condescending.
what we. No, I think this isn't condescending. This is my feeling, and I'm not condescending towards the audience. I'm talking about the vocal audience that we interact with on a regular basis. And that is that they fundamentally misunderstand A, what we do, B, how that differs from what a lot of other games journalists do. And I do use this quote condescendingly because I think a lot of games journalists, as James said, do just read press releases. And,
do.
They post a lot of thought pieces.
Right.
I
and
added
I played Fallout 4, and here's what I
We've
thought.
been in this industry long enough to confirm that's what they do.
because we
A non-anonymous source, me.
some of
saying that's
some of what I
I'll
used to do was like repurposing that shit for
I was supposed to play
G4.
Rock Band 4, but I didn't.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
And I
Add
also
some character to that piece.
I also think that there's a fundamental not misunderstanding, but people like to think that they know more about a subject than they actually do. I like to flatter myself to
just
think
human.
that
We all
as
do.
well.
Yeah, that's a human thing. That's a human
and that extends to people thinking they know more about what we do than we do. People thinking they know more about the games industry than we do. And although none of us have worked physically on a game, we have talked to far more game developers, far more game publishers, interviewed artists, interviewed writers, interviewed coders, more than any of these people have. And so we know what goes into a game with the people that are talking.
I know,
to
I
us.
know, I know.
Those people.
I'm trying to point out.
comment.
I'm putting myself
Why
in
people think that we
the
are.
ears of a listener who's
I-
getting
Right.
mad.
Well, I mean, like the
this,
Mar- oh,
this
go ahead,
is
sorry.
so. This is why I think that our attitude may come off as condescending. Is I honestly don't see it as condescending. I see it as it's frustrating to know as much as we do and to try and present it in a fairly balanced way. I think.
An easy to digest fashion. as
And easy
well.
to digest fashion, and in a way that's conversational, in a way that people talk on YouTube, and then get called, well, you don't know what you're talking about, for no, in an ad hominem attack for no good reason.
Yeah.
And then when we come back and say, well, here's how this works, like, well, don't presume to lecture me on how it works. It's like, okay, well.
Yeah, it's like, yeah, exactly.
Stop being condescending.
Well,
That's pretty condescending.
That was really condescending.
No, so it was funny. The other day, somebody, I forget who I was emailing, but I was asking
Mark
Lawrence,
Lindell.
I was like, Lawrence, how long have you been writing games media? And what'd you say? 10 years?
10 years.
I was like, Adam, how long have you been on YouTube? And we were like, 10 years. And I was like, all right, so I've been at G4, AOL Games, Machinima, Rooster Teeth.
Unless you're counting my awesome website provided by my Jedi Knight team.
We're not.
Okay.
Because I wrote reviews on that.
Actually,
I reviewed.
We're not counting that.
That subtracts years.
Command and Conquer 2.
Yeah,
I
that
said
actually takes away years.
I said the soundtrack wasn't as good as Red Alert.
That takes away experience. Anyways, so I've been in the games industry like
8 out of
production 10 years. James has been there almost 10 years. Joel has been there almost 10 years as well. So it's like one of those things that I was like, holy shit, like there's a lot of experience in this room. So when we sit down and write a script to you or for you
At you.
or at you,
With you.
we're not like just bullshitting you because we like video games and like this isn't when I was 22 and was applying to G4. Like this wasn't when I was like I know video games, I love video games, and that's when I applied to G4 and I started at G4. I was like, holy balls, I know nothing about video games. I met Matt Kyle, and Matt Kyle told me shitloads of stuff that I was like, I didn't know
do you
any of those
know all
things.
that stuff?
And that still happens when I talk to Adam Kovic or Lawrence Sontag on a daily basis. They tell me stuff that I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about? Like, I had no idea that was a thing.
Well,
I
even-
learned. I mean, sorry, Adam. Go ahead.
Oh no, I was touching on what you're saying. Like, I'm also, I don't think any one of us is gonna sit there and go like, listen, this is how you make a video game. I don't fucking know how you make
No,
a video
no,
game.
I don't
It's a lot of work.
Yeah.
I know it usually is soul sucking and it takes a lot out of people and it's usually not very rewarding. And then you sometimes will get yelled at the end of the day. But the Mark Laidlaw thing was actually very fascinating. Like I feel like I learned something when he was talking about
Same
the
with me.
script process from
Yeah,
Valve.
yeah.
I was like, I don't think I've ever heard that before. Like
Yeah.
I also haven't listened to all the commentary walkthroughs on all the Valve games that they've done. Maybe I should, but like the fact
they're
that
fascinating.
when he said, he's like, well, you know, we don't write a script until the game is done. I was like, that's really great. I always kind of assumed every developer knew what they were doing right off the bat. They're like, here's the story we want to tell. It's like, and then rewatching the speedrun of BioShock last night, I remembered, I'm like, that game was in development for like 5 years, and the story kept changing, and the setting kept changing, and
well,
Elizabeth kept changing.
You
all
can
these-
really tell once you see Bioshock Infinite like
Yeah.
that. It is a certain game until it switches gears like 3 or 4 times, and
Right.
the entire plot gets mangled in the process.
I guess what I'm saying is like the interesting thing about this that I was really I felt privileged when Mark was telling me his process because I was like he said, like Adam said, I was like, I never would have guessed that's the way it worked. And I even wrote that in the email. I said, am I incorrect in this assumption? He said, yes, this is how it actually works. And when he told me that, I then thought to myself, okay, so then that means probably everybody has a different process.
Yeah.
Like I'm sure Valve has a different process versus Naughty Dog versus EA versus DICE versus, I mean, like any other developer. Like I'm sure some, just like we write scripts, I'm sure some other movie scripts are fully written before they ever shoot the first shot. So I think that was another thing.
I've actually heard some movies go into production without a script.
Yeah.
Iron Man.
Yeah.
Iron Man was shot without a script.
Right.
It actually was.
Exactly.
John Favreau did not have an actual script locked before he started shooting, and they'd just go into the scene and then they'd figure it out.
And weirdly, that was the best one of all of them.
And so the interesting thing about that is
3 was really good.
everybody's got a different process. So
Yeah.
So when people were like, this is how a script is made, I was like, no, this is how Mark Laidlaw wrote a script back in 2004 for Half-Life 2.
Yeah.
Because we still don't know if he worked on Half-Life 3.
So and then that whole thing broke down to people saying like, well, this tears your story apart because your source said they had a script locked, and we're like, yeah, that's what they told us, and they said,
Well, they didn't. No, they never said we had a script locked.
Or they said they had
the
a
direct quote was the script is there.
Yeah.
Okay, and so then, I mean, at the end of the day too, is like we're reporting on what's given to us,
Yeah.
and so what I took from that was there's a miscommunication between the word script, outline, and template.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
so it would be kind of silly to assume Valve has no idea where Half-Life 3 is going. There's enough story, there's enough setup. Like, you could write some pretty interesting fan fiction, like a kid having cancer and like making out with Gabe Newell or whatever.
Condescending.
That's not what he wrote it. I'm saying
art.
you have enough there that you could easily write something that you could probably pass off as like somewhat of a halfway decent story. There's a lot of pressure there because now they're like, shit, we got all this lore and stuff, and we have to incorporate it and make sure it all checks out. So I don't envy that position, but I something has to be there. right?
When I read that part of Mark's email, I was like Portal 2. Like Portal 2,
Yeah.
obviously they were like, we want to know what kind of game Portal 2 is. But the whole plot aspect of things, if you don't think someone had a scratch pad and was like, Well, what happened in the last one? So Shell was kind of at odds with this AI unit. What if at this one we make it sympathetic?
Yeah.
You know, like they have to team up. That because everyone liked her so much, despite the fact that she was villain. Like that's classic sequel stuff. There.
Yeah.
That's classic narrative sequel stuff. Where we had a villain in the first one. It's Apollo Creed, right? Like Apollo Creed eventually teams up with Rocky. Like if you have Shell and you have Gladys, and Gladys is a bad person, but also a super charismatic bad person, then it makes sense that in the sequel they would team up and they would do all that stuff and all the backstory about the aperture science industry and what's
forget
his
his
Father,
name.
daughter,
the JK.
Cave Johnson.
Yeah, Cave
and-
Johnson and
Yeah.
all that stuff. It's
Yeah.
like if you don't think that they had some of that, they didn't just be like. And then in the next level, there's a slippery, slidey section, and then what about Cave Johnson says something? It's like no, they knew what Cave Johnson was probably going to say.
Actually, I think
once
it's
they had an idea for the game.
I think it's the other way around. They wanted slippery, slidey stuff. This
Yeah.
is just from what Mark Laylaw said. He said gameplay comes
Gameplay
first.
Yeah.
That's
And
very
then
yeah,
story
that's right.
afterwards. So they said,
But-
they're like, but where did the slippery, slidey stuff come from? Maybe
but
this
it's-
guy Cave Johnson,
Yes.
and then he can
Yes.
just do VO.
Yes.
We
But
don't
that's
actually
what I'm
have to-
saying. That's what I mean by script, right?
Yeah.
Like
It was
they have
basically
an idea.
Well, it was basically a radio drama
Yeah.
that was playing in the background. It was basically just like a overglorified audio tape, but it was good. It was very compelling.
The interesting thing about that is I think they came up with the slippery stuff, and all this stuff that you just said is all in emails. Like they all went, all right, well, what about it this?
Yeah,
and
yeah.
then they sent an email, and then somebody wrote back and probably was like, well, let's do this. And then this will tie in with this, and then probably along the way, my guess is they brought in the guy that played Wheatley. What's his name?
Oh, Stephen Merchant.
Stephen
Yeah.
Merchant. They brought in Stephen Merchant.
Which they actually had a different voice before that.
And they're like, okay, so there's these lines, but you can improv, improv whatever you'd like. Like this is the skeleton. It's just like almost any Judd Apatow movie. Those skeleton. They have a skeleton of a script, and then they go in there and they're just like, now just fucking improv because it'll be funnier if you improv it. I think that's kind of what they did for these games. That's the way they've always felt to me. But now that I especially know the process that Mark Laidlaw went through, they start with gameplay, which impresses me even more. I think that's really cool because that means they design a story around gameplay rather than designing gameplay around a story.
Well, that's what we always say. It's like, just make the game fun.
Right.
And then, like, story, and I believe in our collective opinions, is always story should be second or third or fourth or fifth.
The order.
Yeah.
Try and guess which order the order came up with their creative process.
Right, exactly. They probably had that whole script written, then they sat down and started designing a
They
game.
probably started doing fucking mocap.
Yeah.
And then they were like, "All right, this needs to be a game too."
The worst part about this is that
graphics.
you can't when we're supposing all this stuff, you can't take our word for it.
Yeah.
Because you can't, and also it's funny. Like my outlook on scripts for video games has been totally changed. So now I'm like, well, I'm questioning everything.
But I think that there's something to be said about the fact that every game is probably produced a little bit differently, and
absolutely,
company culture is very different from place to place to place.
Sure,
And
Valve has a handbook.
yeah, that's condescending.
That is very condescending.
I'm laying that out. There's a handbook that you can read that tells you exactly how they
Here
go
comes
about their
Except that what you're
day-to-day
going to
lives.
follow it up with is that handbook is from 2002, and
Yep.
think about how much
12.
company culture changes over the course of a couple of years.
Well, my response to that was, we've worked at places with company handbooks, and we immediately threw them away.
No,
And
it's
went-
true. Yeah, you
they were
get them
like-
and then put them in the trash.
They were like, awesome, thanks. This is neat.
That's one of the things I was getting at a while ago, which is the point of doing these stories and discussing them is to hopefully increase awareness of the reality of situations and thus the empathy between players and makers. Like, if you like story-based games and there's like a dev who develops games story first, like your David Cage's or whatever, then you kind of have a better idea of what to expect and how those games are made, and maybe a better understanding of why they perform the way they do, or the kinds of people they appeal to. Or maybe you get a little less frustrated when a game like BioShock Infinite has a story that kind of falls apart. It's because the story wasn't the focus. Like, it was making a fun game, and there are certain sections of the game, like fighting that stupid fucking ghost woman, that they for some reason wanted to keep.
BioShock's interesting because, like I said, I was watching that speedrun, and like, it does feel like a mix of different games, but that's also what happens when a game is in development. But
Yeah.
I remember it was it Ken Levine?
Ken Levine.
Adam Levine?
Kevin.
Kevin Levine.
Yeah.
Ken.
That's an inside joke. I remember him saying, he's like, look, we got to make a fun game. Like, and I was like, thank you for saying that. Like,
Yeah.
and he's like, and people are like, why is Booker on the box? And they're like, because
a man with a gun sells
I forgot
video
what he said the story. Like, he went to like some like frat house in Boston.
Oh, yeah.
And he showed him like two different covers, and they were like, they gave him BioShock 1, and there was like a robot on it and a little girl. They're like, what the fuck is this? But then like Call of Duty had an army man like, let's play this. And he basically was like, okay, well, we gotta move units. And I was like, well, at least he's being honest about the business side and how you kind of have to make creative choices about things that ultimately don't matter, like.
But Ken Levine is
Story.
the only one who can get away with saying something like that.
Yeah.
Which is that's the bummer. Like in today's like media space, your average dev cannot be that honest and never would be allowed to. In fact, probably has to sign paperwork saying they never will.
Yeah.
And that's the thing that kind of gets on my nerves. You have those moments of clarity, like those moments of understanding and learning, then they're happening less and less. And that's the thing that I hoped doing this kind of reporting would help. It creates a dialogue. Like the Mark Laidlaw conversation happened because we reported the story.
Yeah.
And for better or worse, it did kind of make more information come out. It may not be pertinent information. Like if you want to hear Half-Life 3 is coming out next month, that's not the information that came out.
Yeah.
But hopefully throughout this process, you've gotten a little more understanding about why Valve's in the situation they are and why Half-Life 3 has not
You're
come out
saying
yet.
we saved Half-Life 3.
No,
We did it!
If they announce it,
I think
we are the heroes.
Well, I think if you watch us, you could interpret a couple. We've been accused of being like not prosumer
Oh, yeah.
enough,
Oh,
right?
boy.
That's right, because we're pro-business.
Because we acknowledge that it is a business, and we also say like, hey, maybe you shouldn't get so upset with the developers because who knows what their time constraints were, and people
Yeah.
interpret that. I don't think we'd ever really stand up to defend like the executive businessmen
No.
making these really shitty decisions just so that way they can save a couple dollars on a game or whatever, Like, I don't think we'd ever really get into that. But we generally are on the side of the developers, the people who are actually there working on the game.
The artists.
And,
The artists, exactly.
making the games and busting their ass for it, who maybe you shouldn't hold accountable for a lot of
The
problems
business
we have with
decision.
the
Well,
business.
also,
Yeah,
and it's one of
totally
those things
agree.
like when we explain a business decision to you or the way we think it works, it's not because we're defending it. It's because we're trying to tell you why. Like we're trying to tell you why it happened because we've been in the video games business for a while, and we've seen the way that we've seen the way that works. So we're like, well, this is probably why it happened. Like it doesn't necessarily mean we're like, and that's a good thing. We're
Yeah.
just saying this is why it happened.
Also, it's my old goal whenever we defend soulless businesses like that is to help people appreciate that, like, if you want to change it, getting mad and yelling on the internet's not going to do much.
Yeah.
Like, the first step to solving a problem is understanding the problem. And if you understand why certain decisions are made or why games are developed the way they are, then you can start to affect it. Sadly, most of the time, the answer is because other games make shitloads more cash. And if you don't like free-to-play or mobile, and that's what these games are competing with, then you start to understand, you have to kind of come to the conclusion that I thought I was at the center of the games world and I'm not.
Yeah.
And at that point, sadly, you kind of start to say like, well, I'm kind of lucky that products that I like are still getting made because the margin isn't as high. And if all of these businesses are businesses, they would be chasing the cash.
Yeah.
And a lot of them are, but some of them aren't because a lot of game developers are like, no, I want to make this kind of game. And sometimes that requires concessions.
Well, Valve's interesting because they're doing both.
Yeah.
Because it's like,
Well,
yeah,
they
when
used to
you're-
do both.
They used to do both.
They
Well,
haven't
no,
made
no.
it-
I mean, like they're
made a non-free-to-play in a while.
they're still making games, like, and that's cool.
See,
They're making a
that's-
lot of money. Well, Dota's a game.
Yeah, it is. It is. You're right.
I mean, and from what we last saw, I mean, it looks like Left 4 Dead 3 might be the next game to come
hope
out.
so.
I hope so,
hopefully.
yeah.
Something might come out, but like, they're making a shitload of money. They don't need to prove it to anybody. They're just like, yeah, we're on top. Let's stay there. And they're not at the behest of anyone to do it, but they're making a lot of decisions that seem to be based monetarily, which is,
But also-
but it's smart because they're a business.
But also creatively. I mean, Bruce and I were talking this morning. As much like there are different types of creative processes that go into creating these games. So like something like Half-Life or BioShock or whatever can be considered like a magnum opus that takes years to produce, and you have this giant final product that transcends genres and does so many things and takes forever to play. But then there's also something to be said about like, that's like making a movie. And then what's like making a YouTube video where you can pump like 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 of them or 8 of them out, like, or 15 like we do in a week, and you get immediate fan feedback. Now that's like to me that's like a free-to-play game where you can add
mobile, yeah.
or a mobile game where you can add like a new hat or a microtransaction or a costume and see how people feel about that. And that's also exciting. And to discount that level of creativity is also, I think, a little insulting to the developers who
It's true.
For sure there are some like hack developers who make rip-off games and bullshit and all sorts of crap.
Sorry, Lawrence died.
But there are also like people who want to draw like funny, cool, like interesting,
Tembo.
like cartoony mobile games and
By the
like
way,
put
fuck
it
this
out.
developer.
Why?
You get 3 levels in, and then they make you start replaying shit.
Yeah, that's kind
Well, if you played them right the first time,
Adam played the
no,
first
he
2
did-
pretty fucking
yeah,
well.
they
he
were-
didn't get all the skull points.
peanuts.
You shouldn't need to get them all. You should just get some, and then by the time you get to like level 10, then they have you start going back.
The cap
to
is a
other
little
stuff.
high, but
Yeah, I agree.
whatever. The game seems enjoyable.
The game's fun.
Just kidding. Now fuck this developer. Fuck this.
Game Freak? Maybe Pokemon, dog.
These guys made Pokemon?
Pokemon dog?
Well, no, and
Nintendo made
Joel
Pokemon.
makes a good point about content in general, and a really good example of this is Mad Max. So Mad Max Fury Road is sort of like the magnum opus that should never have gotten made. It cost $200 million to make, and like this is a movie that everyone was like, nobody wants fucking Mad Max, and he made an amazing film, and the film basically ended up justifying its cost only because they released it and it was good and well accepted by everybody. Now, that's what we're hoping happens with Half-Life 3. We want Half-Life 3 to come out. Do not get us wrong. I wanted Half-Life 3 to come out ever since I played Half-Life fucking 2 in 2004. I want this game to be exactly what Mad Max Fury Road is, which is, I want this game to be like something that somebody is so passionate about, they're like, you know what, I'm putting my fucking ass on the line, like George Miller did, and I'm gonna put $100 million of my own money into it. We're gonna make it the best game ever, and then they release it, and it's well accepted by critics. Now the problem is, Mad Max Fury Road doesn't have to deal with the gamer audience, because the gamer audience is gonna tear apart Half-Life 3 when it comes out.
Well, this-
or if
It's
it.
bound to be
This
a
is-
movie
this
enthusiast
is-
audience that tore it apart, right? Like a Mad Max fan base.
No,
No.
most
Hated
people.
Fury
Everyone loved it.
There's
Yeah,
also
everyone loved it.
there's something else that Bruce and I talked about this morning before everybody came in, and that is the differences in the medium, in the media. So, one of the points that Mark made that I absolutely agree with in his emails is the fact that when he's reading this book series, this fantasy book series, and the author releases one of them, and then he works on a million different projects, and then maybe he'll release another one, and it's taking decades for this 7 or 12 book cycle series to come out. And I agree. That author, with Mark, I agree that author should have as much time as he needs to create those worlds that he's living in. And I feel the same way about George R. R. Martin and Game of Thrones, in that like he can take as long as he wants between books, like because
Yeah,
they're
he'll
so
live forever.
good. The difference, what Mark, I think, might not, and I don't know for certain, but what it seems like he doesn't understand is the difference between a product like that and a product like a video game, especially a video game like Half-Life, which is a first-person immersive video game, where the audience, when you're reading a book, is very passive. You're being told what's happening. But in a video game, you're playing as the character.
Right.
You feel like you
more
are,
interactive.
it's more interactive, and you feel like you have a vested interest in what's going on much more. And I think he maybe discounts that when he's talking about like, I don't like the way the journalism, basically he's saying I don't like the way the journalism works and the way that the leak culture and the preview culture and needing to know the creative process and what's going on all the time. And it's like, well,
What was it? It was interesting.
I agree with you, but you have to understand the audience.
Right. What was
Also-
interesting about that dialogue is that exists whether or not Mark Laidlaw likes it. So
Right.
like that's what I was trying to explain to him, is that like in not hundreds of paragraphs, the fact that there is there is a leak culture that whether you like it or not, like that's just sort of the way it goes. And sorry, Mark, like sorry you had to return emails, but that's the way it is.
Oh, hey, Mark.
Oh, real quick.
Thanks for watching Good Soup, Mark.
It's time to mention that this episode is sponsored by Loot Crate. Loot Crate is a subscription service that gives you monthly geek, pop culture, and nerdy items in the mail, including solar calculators, pocket protectors, pens of various colors. No, this stuff's better than that. Yeah, there's multicolored Mega Mans. Apparently, one of which is unfindable.
You always see that Power Ranger shirt that James loves.
Oh yeah, the Power Ranger shirt.
It's the White Ranger,
I like that
Green
shirt.
Ranger shirt.
The boxes are all inspired by classic movie and video game releases, as well as pulling from pop culture franchises. Previous crates have included items from franchises like Star Wars, Marvel, The Walking Dead, Legend of Zelda, and many more.
Power Rangers.
Yeah, and Power Rangers, the classic series Power Rangers. Loot Crate says that it's like a friend who knows what you love and surprises you with an awesome present every month. I've never had a single friend that did that, so turns out you just have to pay someone to be your friend and they'll give you stuff. You have until the 19th at 9 p.m. Pacific to subscribe and receive this month's crate. After that cutoff, it'll be next month. So if you go to their website, see what the theme for this month is, and decide that you like it, you should sign up. And if you decide to sign up, use code DUDESOUP to get $3 off a new subscription. So thank you, Loot Crate, for sponsoring. Sweet. And I'm sure the Half-Life 3 box is coming soon.
Yeah. How great would that be?
Be
Half-Life
an orange box.
Half-Life 3 is a Loot Crate exclusive.
So wow, we actually spent most of the podcast talking about Half-Life. I didn't expect that to
We don't
happen.
have,
didn't?
what about Ant-Man?
Let's talk about Adam's balls.
Oh no, the podcast is over. We got to talk about Adam's balls next time.
Damn it.
Really?
Yeah, sorry.
Oh, but they might not be
Adam,
swollen by then.
Adam, give him a little teaser. Huh?
Yeah, on Friday, for some reason, my balls were really big.
Well-
They swole up and they're like James Spool and I went to the gym and I was changing. I'm like, my balls feel huge.
Well, no, you said, do your guys' balls ever swell up and get real itchy? And Spool and I went, absolutely not.
Yeah, no. That's
Absolutely
bad.
not.
That's bad.
Yeah, it was really bad. I went to the doctor.
Balding, do
Dude,
I'm dying.
what?
Do the
attack.
ball move.
No,
Do
no.
the diagonal ball move.
I'm working on it.
That's what they're there for. Anyway,
Anyway, your balls are okay now.
damn it, Adam.
I'm working on it.
We'll hear more about Adam's ball juicing next week.
What the fuck?
You got to squeeze all that ball juice out. There you go.
There you go. We did it.
All right, well, guys, thank you for listening to Dude Soup. I think it's time we put this Half-Life thing to bed.
Yeah, right?
I'm tired of talking about it.
Yeah.
We've got one more video, which is the FAQ.
Yeah.
People call out and ask like a bunch of questions.
Oh, we already made that though.
Yeah, so once we put that video out, that'll be the last of Half-Life 3 you hear from us, probably for a little bit.
It's funny because somebody,
Done sucking that valve dick.
I think it was on Reddit, somebody basically identified our cycle, which
Yeah.
was emergent. It wasn't planned this way, but yeah, we'll end up making a contentious no episode, make another no episode, then talk about it on the podcast, and then it's gone forever.
If there's bigger news, let us know.
Yeah, I know.
I was-
For that, I don't know.
I was more impressed that guy watches enough of our shit that he was like, called him out, did it, and I was like, you're the fucker, you're watching it all.
No, thank you.
Yeah, like that.
I treated it as a compliment. That
Yeah,
you
I'm not mad at you. I mean, yeah, we kind of.
You gotta hammer
we
those
gotta
back.
hit the
We
ball.
can talk about Mission Impossible next week.
Dun,
Oh, man.
dun,
Yeah.
dun, dun. I'm so excited. I'm so excited.
I won't
There's gonna be
see
some good car chases
Boom.
Is it
tonight, dog.
Oh,
We can't talk about that.
Okay.
Secrets.
Anyways, all right. Thanks for listening.
Thank you for listening, everybody. Have a wonderful week.
I'm gonna play with this elephant a bit more.
I don't even really care about Half-Life.
Yeah, there's so many games out right now.
I want to play the shit out of Half-Life.
I get all tore up
but
about
I'm not like
Half-Life.
dying for it.
I mean, I want it, but damn.
Metal Gear and Fallout 4 are coming out this year.
How many of you guys have played New Order and Old Blood? Huh? Nobody?
Yeah,
If they
it was
need to do that
lightning
for
in
Dragon
a
Ball.
bottle. Like that is something that's very hard to replicate,
Just
and
like J.J. Abrams.
you'll probably never. I can't imagine when we'll see something like that ever again, other than like, I don't know, Valve being like,
Yeah.
by the way,
Half-Life Shelter.
Yeah, like during like GDC,
looks
Valve,
familiar.
like,
Shut up.
Gabe Newell's like, by the way, Half-Life 3 is on your computer right now. You didn't even know it, and people like blow their brains out.
You don't even know it.
It has a U2 album in there too.
Yeah.
Figured you'd want it, so we just
Yeah,
packed it all in.
everybody uninstall it. Get doors.
Half-Life.